Hey, everybody, welcome to Twitch and Box Sports Talk. This is the conference championship weekend coming up. So, this week we're going to break down the divisional round games. We're going to talk a little bit about some transitions and some of the other NFL teams, injuries, coaching spots. We always like to start off with what made me twitch. Shallow weekend here. We just have myself, LSV, Big Willie, aka The Box, and Chris Twitch himself here. So, probably a short one, but let's get into what made you twitch this week, Box.
Yeah, what made me twitch this week is there's a couple options, but the one thing that I've never necessarily enjoyed about NFL football, or at least the fans of NFL football make me not like it, is people complaining about officiating and whatnot. Like, I understand there's definitely some missed calls. There's missed calls on both sides of the ball. You could look at any game and say, oh, they should have called this or should have called that. And, like, people just complaining about it or blaming the refs. I never necessarily enjoy that. But this weekend with the Broncos-Bills game, there was a lot of like they said there was the interception that gave the Broncos the ball back to go down and win the game. They said that it was an interception, or the Bills fans thought it wasn't. But then Broncos fans said it was, and everybody's blaming the officiating crew like that. But there's also calls that didn't get called on the Bills that could have been called that would have changed the whole layout of the game and what would have happened either way. So that definitely made me twitch. I know that, people are just looking for like excuses to blame. They don't want to, take, and as a fan, you don't take responsibility for it. We're not Josh Allen or a player that can actually control the game, but blaming it on the refs, I think, is terrible. And even like with all the Chiefs, like last year in a couple games, everybody was blaming the refs or saying the refs were the reason the Chiefs were winning. And I never really hopped on that bandwagon whatsoever, because I think if you go back and I don't say you have to be necessarily knowledgeable of the game, but if you understand how football works and watch the interior of the offensive line or watch the secondary of the whole game, there's calls that can go either way no matter what, that should be thrown or shouldn't be thrown. And every game has a couple calls. I'm guessing there's more than even I catch, but there's calls you're like, oh, they should have called holding there, like pass interference, or he's holding, defensive holding, or anything like that. So that made me twitch, just the Bills fans coming out in numbers and blaming it on that, when both sides had opportunities to win that game in regular time, let alone overtime. So either way, that just made me twitch. And
some of that comes down to let them play ball. You really want to watch a game where they did pick every little thing, some contact downfield, or where somebody's hands is at, and OPI or defense passes interference. There's going to be contact down there, so I feel like they have a tough enough job. But obviously, if you're on the losing side of that call,
it makes it louder.
You're the one that's complaining about it.
Yeah, and I especially like in the Broncos-Bills game, and then the Miami-Indiana College Football Championship last night. They were both the officiating crews were just kind of letting the boys play, just letting them play football. There's pass interference probably every call in the Miami-Indiana game, but they were not calling on either side, and it was rough, physical football. And I'm a big fan of physical football. I enjoy, watching running backs run people over, and watching, DBs push wide receivers out of bounds when they're trying to be divas and all that crap. So I enjoy it, but I'm good with when refs, call the game fair both sides. And I feel like the Broncos game was definitely called fair both sides, because they were just letting them play, and the refs didn't really play too big of a role in the game either way. So
it reminds me of baseball when you have the umpire. You're looking at the strike zone. You might not like that first call when it gets called for a ball or a strike, because you think that wasn't the correct call. But as long as they call like a wide strike zone, it's everybody's playing with the same one. So adapt to it, and then come out there and take advantage of how they're going to call the game. I'd just assume let them play ball. And if it's heinous, call it. But there's too much physical contact downfield in some of those situations. I know we'll get into that, like you said, with the interception that the Broncos had at the end of the game to turn around and take possession of that and get the win. I think it was personally the right call. But, man, haters come out of the woodwork on social media.
Yeah, very much so. Throwing it over to Twitch. Twitch is what made me twitch. Definitely undermines or makes mine look not near as important whatsoever. But Twitch, what made you twitch this weekend?
Well, I don't know if I should start with on the field or off the field. On the field, a couple of honorable mentions between you could go with Josh Allen, and not because of the officiating thing, but just because the 4 turnovers, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And so I feel like Buffalo has relied too much on Allen. Or you could make a case for the interceptions for. I really want to come out here and talk about C.J. Stroud, just because I feel like I know I've been all over the Texans nuts this year, but I feel like that was the one thing you couldn't do. Was we saw the last month of the season just just throwing the ball up there for. We knew that we thought that it might come back to bite him. But what made me twitch was actually, I hate to contradict myself or kind of go back on points we talked about this year, because there's a lot of times that I like what Dan Campbell of the Lions has really started with, teams being more aggressive in the middle of the game. Most of the time I like that, but we've also talked about on this show about them being too smart for it. And I'm looking at the Bears game. You have 6 easy points in a low defensive contest. You take the 6 gimme points in a close game. You lose in overtime by a field goal. I mean, so like that's the difference in the game. There was 3 times total where the Bears didn't make it. And again, you could say, for everyone that says about the last interception trying to force the ball, there's also we'll get to that in our game recap, but obviously the Caleb Williams throw to even send it to overtime. But that was something that made me twitch. Is like, I've said that before, is just like, overall, I like the teams to be more aggressive. It's more fun as a football fan to watch, like, nut up or shut up. But at the same time, it's like, there's a reason why back in the day you didn't usually see them go for it. It's like it may not be the sexy or fun pick, but you take 3 points there, 3 points there, in a game that was close all the way through between the Bears and Rams. And so, like, I feel like you had to take the points there. And, you know, it's easy to say now, Tuesday evening quarterback, like, when it doesn't work out for you. But it's just like, I personally, like, if the game's tied all the way through in a game like that, and the Rams having a good defense, just to, you know, not to celebrate participation trophies, but you get down there, you're struggling to move the ball as well in the first half, and you have 2 shots. Where you move the ball, you stalled. Well, I get one of them was a 4th and short, and Ben Johnson, he was with Dan Campbell, so like he's part of that, you know, one of those aggressive style coaches. I said, but I don't know. That was what made me twitch. It was like, it's easy to say hindsight's 20/20. I said, but when you lose a game like that in overtime and you left 6 to 9 points out on the field, so that's what made me twitch.
Well, I got on Josh Allen a couple weeks ago about scrambling around trying to make a play and then giving up a huge sack. And this week you left me a little room in the pool there because you started off talking about the Bills, so there's plenty of things to talk about. For me personally, not a Bills fan. I watched a lot of Bills fans on TikTok, and everybody's like, well, it was Chiefs fans. Who do you root for in this situation? And it was, a lot of people were talking about rooting for the Bills, never root for the Broncos and whatnot, and got personal reasons why I was pulling for the Broncos. But I think I was the only one on 10,000 threads this weekend that was saying go Broncos. But again, backing up, they got on Josh Allen about trying to do too much to make a play and then coming back and costing you yards and field position. And then we saw that a couple times in this game, where the Broncos at the end of the first half, they have the opportunity to actually get downfield and score a touchdown, which would have been lucky to get 3 points out of that. And so I'm glad to see Sean Payton open up the play call. They got the ball downfield. They get points in the end zone. But what got me was that Buffalo came back out, returned the ball, said, I don't know how many seconds there were left on the clock. A dozen, 20, something like that. And I've always been that guy. I was talking to Twitch on the way out here today that I don't know why teams just don't just put the ball up, throw it out there, hope for a defensive pass interference, throw it up there. Who cares if it gets picked off in the end zone? The guy's not going to run it back. What are the odds of that? And so they do just that. Josh Allen comes out there, scrambles around, gets the ball knocked out of his hands, and then Denver comes up there and puts 3 more points to take a 13-point lead, 23-10 at halftime. So, I thought it was great since I was going for the Broncos, but as somebody that's watched that game, if you're a Bills fan, I would definitely say that has to make you twitch. Just take the knee, go into the locker room, regroup, and come back out, because you take that moment, you get to your halftime, you come back out there, and what happens the first play in the second half? Josh Allen comes out there and gets another, fumbles again. And so, now granted, we'll get into that, what happens the rest of the game, but I'm thinking if something's going to make you twitch, just sit down and regroup. But that was great for me to see that turn of events. And now anytime I'm saying just put the ball up and try to get a defensive pass interference or put one in the end zone if you can, maybe that's why I'm not a head coach somewhere. Just sit down on the ball, lick your wounds, go in the locker room and regroup. So
I forgot to say the off the field that made me twitch, but just that. I have my boys this weekend, Friday, Saturday, before they go back to their moms on Sunday. It's tradition every other weekend that every Sunday before they go back, I think to go to donuts with Dad. So, of course, they race down the stairs at my apartment complex, and they get around the corner before I do. And they said, "Dad, where's the car?" So, my car was stolen from my complex this weekend.
Go
So-
Top City.
Yeah, so Topeka Finest. So, currently looking at getting another vehicle. Thankful for liability. No,
So if there's anybody that has a car dealership here in the listening area,
Yeah,
just wants to give a free car.
yeah.
Right.
Throw Twitch a car there.
Or if you see a 2014 dark Nissan Sentra with a Steeler emblem, if it's still even there. Anyway,
he
That
just
was my
wanted the
segment.
emblem, but took the whole car just to make it easy.
Right.
It's too hard
that
to scrape
sucks,
off.
man.
Yeah, it's wild. Only
And poor Finn's football cards and Pokemon cards were in there. So I mean,
And his
what's
new, he just spent $40 at Christmas, and we talked about it on the podcast. He had an NFL jacket that he's proud of. His new drip had all 32 teams on there. So, Dad's looking at them online, and he got his at Burlington Coat Factory for 40 out of his own Christmas money, and they're 120 online. So,
oof.
anyway, we'll be replacing
Poor
that.
guy.
Yeah,
But-
it's tough luck.
Yeah.
So now, what kind of jacket is he going to wear? He's going to have to go back and wear his Bengals jacket to school.
Right.
Poor guy.
Right.
Aw, it's going to go fun start for this kid.
Right.
Let's buy this man a new jacket.
Right.
All right.
Rolling into our offensive player of the weeks here. My offensive player of the week is Bo Nix. 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 12 carries for 29 yards. Led the team in rushing yards, and I'll get into that a little bit later why that's a terrible thing and led to some unfortunate events. But that's my offensive player of the week. I feel like, there's been Bo Nix haters his whole career. Most wins ever by a second-year quarterback in his first 2 years starting. I mean, there's records on records that he played, records that he set for wins and consistency, and took his team to the playoffs his 2 years in the NFL. So he's been lights out so far, and I think this divisional game I'm not going to say it shut up the haters because I feel like Bo Nix is going to have doubters his whole career. I don't know necessarily what brings that on, but he's had doubters the whole time. But playing a game like that against Josh Allen and securing the win out there for your team, and the way he did, I think hopefully puts him in a better conversation instead of people questioning if he's legit or not. Because I feel like last year he proved that he was, a solid franchise guy, and then this year I think he just solidified it even more. So it'll be interesting to see what the conversation is this summer, when all this wears off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game. I mean, we only have a few things to recap, so I'll wait to chime in on some of my thoughts with that one. I went with Kenneth Walker, 116 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Our show, not your show.
Is that yours?
Yes.
That's the obvious pick. That's why I jumped in there and stole yours. Someone make you scramble and go find somebody else.
God damn it.
You can connect to my Wi-Fi. Who had better stats than Kenneth Walker? Nobody.
No.
Kenneth
And
Walker.
it was
Go ahead.
a great game. Steelers just absolutely dominated. But that's an example of, we've seen other teams this year that got away from the running game. It destroyed the Colts when they quit giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor. The Ravens definitely lost a couple games in there where they tried to do something else and they strayed away from Henry.
King.
So, this is know what you've got in front of you and just work that. So let's put you on the spot. Do you have anybody that you think deserves accolades for offensive player of the week?
I'm not going to
Rich?
let you deter me. I'm going to keep it the same because I'm going with Kenneth Walker. 145 total yards between receiving and rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, and with Charbonnet, who's been it's been a nasty 1-2 combo, especially over the back half of the season. So with him now, we'll get to that here in a minute. With him being with Charbonnet being done for the year, Kenneth Walker, we've said at certain times is a top 6, top 8 running back, and really just to kind of control the tempo. So they set the tone early. So. Yeah, I went with Kenneth Walker in that dominant performance of the Seahawks. So.
Stealing my feed.
It was very
Yeah.
I think that game also proved that Kenneth Walker it can be an all-round back. I know they use Charbonnet in goal line situations and subbed Walker out during the regular season, but I think they're going to keep the same formula next year, depending on how Charbonnet's offseason rehab goes. But I mean, the 2 running back system is fine, but I think Walker could also. I think he proved that he can be a 1 running
Carry
back
one.
system as well.
Yeah.
Rolling into our injuries, 2 big injuries this week. Bo Nix broke his ankle, broken ankle bone, out for the season. And then Zach Sarbenchen, we just talked about, towards ACL in that blowout win. So both those guys will be out for the teams that won. Besides that, nothing really too big on the injury chart that really stood off the page. A couple banged up guys, but I'm guessing they'll play. The Broncos opened J.K. Dobbins' return window, so he's expected to be active for the game. It'll depend; they'll probably work him back into it. But having that, that veteran leadership in the running back room again, and having a guy that can split carries with Harvey and our committee that we've had in the running back room would be nice.
They both had great performances this week. Nice to see both of them running over people. RJ had some great breakout runs.
RJ did good, and then McLaughlin kind of stepped up into that second running back role. And then Tyler Batty, who's been on and off the practice squad all year, also had some good dominant runs. And, I mean, that's a guy that just really doesn't get reps in that running back room because we have J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, and McLaughlin's kind of that shifty third down back type that R.J. also is. So he's kind of the odd man out in that situation, but it was nice to see him step up. And I know for a 7th round pick, he's really overplayed what I think people expected him to play.
Did you have a defensive player of the week?
We just skipped right over it. I heard injuries and I just rolled right into it.
That's all right.
My defensive player of the week is Huff, number 9 for the Broncos. Strong safety, free safety, plays both positions. 10 tackles, 7 solos, 1 fumble recovery that Nick Bonito caused. But just a guy that's all over the field, and he seems to make the Broncos defense right more than they are wrong. Because even like on broken plays, he'll be across the field and he'll still chase down the big play and push the guy out of bounds, or he'll tackle the running back from 10 yards back, tackle him for a 3-yard gain. So Huff's just been all over the field. I mean, that's why San Francisco drafted him when they drafted him 4 years ago now. He just could never stay healthy all year, knock on wood. So far this year, he's been healthy. He played healthy all year, and he's been lights out. It's the reason he's a Pro Bowler. I mean, he's been a solid offense. I think our biggest signing this offseason for sure. Arguably, top, besides Pickens for Dallas and a couple other guys like Sam Darnold. I mean, probably the biggest offseason defensive signing there was that's consistently worked out, up there with the Parsons before he got hurt. So Huff's been lights out. I'm excited to see how he leads that defense in this AFC Championship game against Drake May and that offense. So I'm excited for.
Did I mention my car was stolen 2 days ago, and we're still got to bring up George Pickens on the podcast?
That's the first. I mean, as soon as I thought off-season signings, I mean, George Pickens was definitely the biggest splash.
Yeah,
that worked. I mean, hate to bring that up. That just first one that popped in.
Well, I'm going with the losing effort. Even though in a losing effort, I said with the 5 turnovers by the Texans. The same guy I picked last week. This is one of the first times I've had back-to-back weeks, but just Will Anderson Jr. not be able to do enough with the Texans' offense, but his defensive performance: 3 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, forced 2 fumbles. After last week was a big reason for the interception and the fumble recovery for the touchdown in the Steeler game, and just was all over the place. So, just like we'd seen all year, it was between Anderson and Hunter were just in the backfield constantly, causing 2 fumbles in the first half with Drake May. So, again, obviously the Texans couldn't overcome the turnovers, but just an incredible season in the way they want. I feel like the Texans' defense will be one of those kind of like the Seahawks that lost to the Patriots because of the Marshawn Lynch game, or like the Jaguars that lost to the Patriots as well in 2017. Just another one of those defenses that had the potential to be historic, and they couldn't get it done. So, but first time this year did back-to-back, but it was just like Will Anderson was all over that. So with 2 fumbles caused and 3 sacks again, just doing everything in his power to keep it close until the fourth quarter. So
when I was watching that game, that's who I was leaning into. I was like, man, I know I had him as my defensive player of the week once this year too, and he's wreaked havoc week after week after week. Yeah. I figured that's who you're rolling with. My note goes out there. I mean, is much as Kenneth Walker had a day in the Seattle Seahawks offense, we figured that they would be fairly dominant in that game. Yeah. What surprised me is Seattle's defense came around. Like you've been saying, is Seattle is good at all 3 levels, offense, defense, and special teams, and they came out and had a heyday. Yeah. I would have never, though, projected in that game that San Francisco would only put up 6 points.
Yeah.
So hats off for me, defensive player of the week. I'm going to give kudos to the Seattle defense. This is going to be ridiculous. I hope that the Rams offense will be a little bit more explosive than we saw out of the 49ers. I was just surprised that we saw CMC and Purdy doing some things to move the ball downfield, and man, Seattle just got after him all day long. Didn't let up for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
So a little scary. Whoever comes out of that game, I think, is probably going to be, the projected winner in our Super Bowl. But anything happens once you get to the dance. But yeah, that was the only game, in my opinion, that I wouldn't say it wasn't fun to watch this weekend. But it was the one where you go, by halftime we started playing cards. I'm like, okay, I can just watch the scoreboard keep going up, and that was all I got out of that. So
Yeah. Honorable mention, we never had a special teams player of the week, but the first play of the game for the Seattle Seahawks, Raheem Sneed, deadline pickup from the Saints for the Seahawks, returned a 95-yard touchdown for the first kickoff of the game, scored it. So never really done a special teams player of the week, but I feel like he definitely deserves a shout out because he broke the game open, set the tone early, and it was all downhill from the 49ers from there.
Yeah, we had people upstairs watching the game and somebody downstairs watching the game, and somebody said, how the hell did they already score in 13 seconds and stuff like that, And that's that all-complete team, offense, defense, special teams. They got it done.
Yeah,
That's his second touchdown of the year, and less than a half a year from the deadline. He had a touchdown earlier this year with the Seahawks.
Took a punt return and switched that Rams game on its head too. So
Yeah.
Great. That would probably go down as one of the better in-season trades for a long time, especially if they get to the Super Bowl. Just big-time playmaker.
Yeah.
We have a couple. We have one coach firing. The Buffalo Bills fired Sean McDermott after the loss to the Broncos. I project, this is just putting this out there. I think this is going to be like a Mike Vrabel situation in Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee had been losing a little bit. They hadn't been back to where they were at. But I could see this being the kind of same situation where he goes and takes another crappy team. You remember the Bills were not good when he got there. And he built them into perennial playoff teams, AFC Championship appearances.
That was a year or two before even Allen.
Yeah, so he played with Tyrod Taylor for a little bit, and then him and his offensive staff, turned Josh Allen into who he is now. So I could see him going, and I think he's going to get another head coaching job if he doesn't take a year off. But that's also what Vrabel did, took a year off and then took a big job. So it'll be interesting to see. But they fired a Sean McDermott. I think they will. I think they maybe hire somebody that'll get him, maybe win some more playoff games. But also, this also could go down and they could regret it deeply just because of the consistency that he brought.
Yeah.
So crazy firing in my opinion. I didn't see that one coming. I heard some rumblings, but I was like, "There's no way they fire him."
Yeah.
But a couple coach hirings.
Well, real quick, I just want to say, it'd been six straight years of making it at least to the divisional round. So even though my biggest knock on Tomlin, not only getting there, but being true contenders. Now, granted, obviously it's a quarterback-driven league, so you have Josh Allen, so it's that's a big reason why.
Yeah, without ever getting the 1 seed, so they won wild card games.
But just legitimate contenders every year that he's been there.
It's not his fault. Not his fault he ran into Mahomes every single time.
Pittsburgh should be calling him. I would gladly take McDermott. Who also, side note, this is completely random, also college teammate of Mike Tomlin. So
very interesting.
Yeah, Sean McDermott was.
Circle there. Couple big-time coach hirings. Harbaugh goes to the Giants, so he will be coaching Jackson Dart and Scabadoo and Malik Neighbors in that offense this next year. Excited to see how that one shakes out. And that was kind of the bellow the ball, you could say, for coaches out there. So as soon as that happened later on in the day, Kevin Stefanski, former Browns head coach, got fired by the Atlanta Falcons as their head coach. So
that was my favorite TikTok of the week was when Harbaugh meets Scattaboo. And it's the Happy Gilmore where he's standing there just taking line drives in the chest.
Yeah, it's probably how it went. I've been sending LSV some. I followed Cam Scabadoo, his Twitch stream, followed it on TikTok, and I've been sending Greg clips, and there's just some outrageous shit. He seems like he's the same guy off the field that he is on the field. And
Absolutely,
absolute meathead, crazy ass dude. Jeff Haley hired for the Dolphins head coaching job, former offensive. George Hafley. I gotta pause that. Jeff Hafley, defensive coordinator for the Packers. So that Packers defense that had been elite all year, winning those guys games up there, gets hired by the Miami Dolphins as their head coach. And then Robert Saleh, 49ers defensive coordinator, former Jets head coach, hired from the Tennessee Titans. So a couple dominoes are starting to fall, but I think we're going to have another coach hiring freeze here until the Bills find their guy, and then we'll be back to the Cardinals and the Raiders, the Pittsburgh and the Ravens will all be looking for their guy. So excited to see how those all shake out. Though I think there will be a lot of first-time head coaches. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some older guys who maybe get shots here at some coaching gigs, just because who wants to go coach the Arizona Cardinals, who are in a interesting quarterback situation. Right. Same thing with Las Vegas. All the money they threw to guys this year that didn't work out. It'll be interesting to see where those jobs end up. Yeah, for sure.
I'm most excited probably about Harbaugh, just because I always like Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And now he's not a division rival, and I think he'll, like Tomlin, he'll raise that thing to where at least they'll be that floor, I should say, not their ceiling.
Yeah.
And then with all the offensive talent they have, so that's one I'm probably most excited. Really interesting pickup also from the AFC North, like with Stefanski now going to the Falcons. This is because he's a 2-time winning coach, and I didn't think that Saleh got a fair shot thanks to injuries and Rodgers, honestly.
Yeah,
but I feel like the first year he proved that he could be a Mike Vrabel type high up motivator. So hopefully he can kind of get the Titans a little bit of a direction, a little bit of discipline, some toughness. So.
Yeah. And then, Stefanski to the Falcons would be very interesting, too, just because I know he was great. I mean, he was great with the Browns, got them to the playoffs for the first time, and got them a win, broke that drought that they had forever. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with those offensive weapons they have down there in Atlanta. We're going to go over the All-Pro list. The All-Pro list dropped last week, but we didn't cover it. So, offensive. So these are this is the AP. So Associated Press, they vote on All-Pros. Matthew Stafford for the Rams is the quarterback and probably the MVP this year. That's probably my guess who's going to win it this year. Running back is Bijan Robinson out of Atlanta. He basically carried that team to where they were at. Mm-hmm. Obviously didn't make the playoffs. Fullback is Kyle Juszczyk again. It's just because there's not really too many fullbacks out there, and he does about everything else on top of it. Wide receivers, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith, and Jamar Chase. Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith had been playing lights out, and then Jamar's had a better year than Jefferson, so that's why he got the nod. Yeah. All-purpose, they created a new position for Christian McCaffrey this year just because of his receiving and running back talent that he had this year, and he was basically the Niners' offense when they lost all the receivers and also their running backs and tight ends. So McCaffrey definitely deserved that nod.
Yeah, he's the reason why they created the flex player in fantasy football.
Yeah. He's literally the perfect fantasy football flex player. He's been that about his whole career. Tight end Trey McBride for Arizona. I mean, he set multiple tight end receiving yards and receptions records this year for Atlanta because he was really their wide receiver one playing tight end. So he deserved that for sure. Left tackle Garrett Bowles out of Denver. Great left tackle. Kind of had a rough start to his career. He's been playing lights out recently. Left guard Joe Thuney out of Chicago. Another guy who's been lights out. Kansas City should. I texted that to the group chat after the Bears game. I said, this Joe Thuney guy's pretty good. Kansas City should really have a guy like that on their offensive line. And so we've been poking fun at Twitch all year about a wide receiver like George Pickens would really help their offense. So I figured throw it back at LSV there.
Yep.
So center is Creed Humphrey out of Kansas City. Another lights out center. He's been dominant his whole career in Kansas City. Quinn Meinerz for Denver, the right guard. D3 players formed into an all-pro guy, obviously. And then Penny Sewell, I can't say his last name.
Sewell. Yeah,
out of Detroit. Caught a couple touchdown passes this year. He's caught a couple in the past. Just all-around player. He's locked down left tackle. Edge rushers, Myles Garrett, obviously, sets the sack record, so he's going to get the nod. Will Anderson Jr. gets the nod for his lights-out performances he's had all year. He's been part of the great pass rushing duo. And then Micah Parsons that he played out there in Green Bay before he went down with the JCL. He was another lights-out player. Interior defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons out of Tennessee. He's been bright spot of their offense. And then Zach Allen out of Denver, another D lineman.
Yeah.
Also been lights out for Denver's defense. Jeffrey Simmons also used to play for Denver. He was part of the Russell Wilson trade that we had to get picks for. So
Yeah.
casualty there. Jack Campbell out of Detroit for the linebacker room, guy that's all over the field. And then Jordan Brooks out of Miami. A little bit of a younger guy getting on the list there, but a bright spot there on that Miami team. For the cornerbacks, Derek Stingley Jr. from Houston, part of that Houston defense that was lights out. He was locked down corner all year. And then Quinion Mitchell out of Philadelphia, a guy who was kind of unknown going into the season, kind of like talked about as a mid-tier corner, really proving himself. And watching that playoff game that the Eagles played, I mean, he was locked down all day. And I didn't realize how good he was until I watched that game. I was like, oh, shit, this guy's pretty good at the game of football.
Yeah.
And the slot cornerback, Cooper DeJean, my Jackie Robinson. Another kind of that flex players coming off the edge, playing lights out there. For the safeties, Kyle Hamilton out of Baltimore. Another guy they roll down in the box, can play outside linebacker, play safety. Really the reason they clicked this year. And then Kevin Byard out of Chicago, another safety, who's really big part of that Chicago secondary that played really good. Place kickers, Will Richard out of Minnesota. Punter, Jordan Stout out of Baltimore. Kick returner, Ray Davis out of Buffalo. Had a lot of big returns for Buffalo just all season. And then played that second running back real well. Punt returner is, I need to learn how to say this guy's name because he's been really good this year. But Chimere Dyke out of Tennessee, punt returner, one of the real few bright spots out of Tennessee season. He was also their all-purpose yards leader. Special teamer is Devon Key out of Denver, played every special teams. Got a couple big punt tackles and kickoff return tackles. And then long snappers, Ross Matrick out of Jacksonville. Great. I don't know. I don't really have to say. You're a long snapper. Good. I mean, good job.
Yeah.
The only Jacksonville Pro Bowler as well, so interesting stat there. Second team is Drake May, James Cook, Pat Richard, George Pickens, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Chris Olave, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Trent Williams, Quentin Nelson, Andrew Brewer, Chris Lindstrom, Darnell Wright, Brian Burns, Daniil Hunter, Aiden Hutchinson, Leonard Williams, Cam Hayward, Devin Lloyd, Ernest Jones, PS2, Devin Witherspoon, Derwin James, Jesse Bates, Huff from Denver, and then Xavier McKinley out of Green Bay. So that's the second team players. I think most of the first team players are, at least in my household, are household names. They're all guys that I've known. And then second team is also about the same. So those are your all-pro guys. Those are, that's not Pro Bowl popularity vote. That's, press guys who, they're obviously biased because I think they pick 2 press from every media market and have them all vote.
Well, and the best of each conference, not even just like I said, these are the top 3 or 4. Like I said, fan votes. So this is the best
At their
your position at their individual position.
Yeah. So that's that. We're gonna have our question of the week. This question of the week is what is your favorite superstition you've seen and or have? So by superstition we mean like some people wear the same socks to every game, or they wear the same shirt, or they have to eat the same food. Or there's also some really crazy outlandish ones. Buddy Keesis, he has to stand and or sit on the left side of the TV the whole game, or they play like crap. So if he has to go to the right side of the TV, he has to wait till commercial break. So he believes that wholeheartedly. I've seen it happen in person. My buddy the Sloosh, his is he had Patrick Mahomes underwear for their first couple Super Bowls. He'd wear every game, and then they were going for the three-peat, and then he forgot to wear them when they lost the three-peat. So
It's
I don't know.
his fault.
yeah, he took it actually pretty hard. It was kind of crazy. I've never seen somebody do that. My superstition, I used to, when the Broncos won the Super Bowl back with Peyton, I wore the same socks and underwear and pants and shirt every game. So that was mine. But nowadays, it's just sit in the same spot. That's what I've done all year. Every time the Broncos are on TV, I get to watch. I sit down in the same spot. I can get up and move during breaks and stuff, but I got to sit in the same recliner or the same spot on the couch or on the floor the whole game. So, and that's worked out pretty well this year. So
Yeah, I know for years we'd go over and watch the Chiefs games at the Angry Pig Saloon, and owner Mark, he had to have everything in a certain spot. So, it was a ritual before every game. Everything had to be just in the right spot. And, if something wasn't going right, it was you move things to its secondary position. But he always had a jersey. And what cracked me up is if things got really bad, his go back throw to, we're going to turn things around, is he had a cut off Derrick Henry jersey. So, I mean, it just came down to like right here. And so when he come downstairs with no shirt, not a half shirt on, it was like, this is it. This is what's going to turn us around. Here, I'm not too superstitious. We definitely have some rituals here. We collect so much Chief stuff. So I asked Taylor Swift, is there anything specific that you do? And as somebody that's gotten Chief stuff over the years, and she always gets a Kansas City Chiefs candle. So they have a theme that comes out. You can buy one. I bought her one this year. I don't even remember what it said, but it was just knowing that she collects them. And she said, yeah, there's one candle that I light at the beginning of every game, and I light that candle for that entire season, and it burns through the game. When the game's over, I blow it out. And she also said she had lucky underwear. So being married to somebody for 28 years, I didn't know that she had lucky underwear. So I don't know. I'm about to follow up with old Taylor Swift on what lucky underwear looks like, because apparently those need to be discarded this year. I need to get her something else. Anything for you, Twitch? Any crazy rituals in your household?
Rituals are superstitions because
Rituals are superstitions.
My favorite superstition is actually the curse of the terrible towel. It just goes back. Whereas this last week, the Houston Texans became the latest victim of the terrible towel after the Texans' dominant performance on Monday, celebrated in the locker room with ripping up the terrible towel. And by 21-10 halftime, by the next game against the Patriots this last week. But it's happened several times, so it's just like, is that really real? But a couple of years ago, we played Jacksonville in 2023, and they stomped us at home. I think that was, it might have been Mason Rudolph Trubisky year. But anyway, 2023, they celebrate after the game by stomping on the terrible towel. They finished with only 3 wins the rest of the year. And then it comes down to the last game of the year. They needed to beat the piss poor Titans. Titans beat them, and guess who gets in the playoffs right behind them? Pittsburgh was the last team in. Going back a little bit further, 2016, the Cincinnati Bengals thought it'd be funny to be up 16-3. Then they got Jeremy Hill, old running back for the Bengals, does it. So what happens? After halftime, Big Ben leads a comeback. Gets outscored 21-3 at the half. I'm gonna keep going. I'm sorry. 2008, and I know I'm missing some in between this time frame too. But 2008, it becomes between the last 2 weeks of the season. It's between us and the Titans, and whoever wins that game is going to be the 1 seed. So guess what happens? Like, they stomp on the terrible towel. You can go look at this. This isn't just bias. But Pittsburgh had literally the toughest schedule in 25 years. They played back to back. That's when the Ravens were both really good. They had the Patriots. Have all these marquee games, and they just happened to play in that stretch. They play the Titans. Anyway, so all the Titans players tear up the terrible towel. They play the Ravens the first round. They have 2 of their main players get hurt, and then they get knocked out. And guess who won the Super Bowl that year? Pittsburgh. Last one I'm going to mention, probably the most famous one, was 2005. Cincinnati wins the division. They beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh to win the division. There's that famous clip of T.J. Houshmandzadeh rubbing his feet all over the terrible towel. Well, guess what? They played Pittsburgh the first round of the playoffs. First series, Carson Palmer tears his ACL. Pittsburgh wins the Super Bowl that year. I'm just saying, there's been 6 or 7 times where it's it's probably just coincidence. But Toro, you can thank the Toro, the mascot of the Texans, for the most recent terrible towel curse. You just don't disrespect the terrible towel. I'm just saying. That's my favorite tradition, because it's literally come back to bite everyone that's done it in public. So
I got an off-script question. I don't know where this came from.
8 inches.
As we start to bring, our season, our podcast to the end of the year, something I've been thinking about, because I have no clue. I'm assuming you guys both watch The Quarterback on Netflix, because they've had 2 seasons out there. Is there anybody that you think will be on season 3 of Quarterback, or anybody that you would like to see on season 3 of Quarterback? Because we ended up, I thought both of them were great, and I was not a big fan of Joe Burrow on or off the field. I mean, because I'm not a Bengals fan. But when I watched that, I get to feel a little bit more of his personality when his house gets broken into and stuff like that. You know, you start to at least have, not empathy is not the right word, but at least you kind of connect with them as players. And, you know, of course, season 1, you got Patrick Mahomes and stuff like that in there. But do you think that there's, I don't know how they picked that. Now, the crazy thing is, executive producers are Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So I think that they may have some influence on where those go. But when Tristan went out to the Broncos to work this year, I did ask him at the beginning of the year. He goes, "Well, I wouldn't be able to talk about it if they did, just because you're not allowed to, obviously." But do you think there's any team that?
He would have spilled the beans.
No, he wouldn't. He's good at keeping those secrets. Your job depends on it. But do you think that there's a team out there that they projected to follow this year? Because I mean, obviously, a good take in the offseason would have been to go and follow the Ravens. But then, you know, that would have been that'd be a shitty documentary.
Yeah.
You know, coming into this year, is there anything out there that you would have liked to have seen, or do you think that they were following?
I think maybe the Bills could have been on that list just because, you know, the Josh Allen, and then, like, you know, he announces he's engaged to Haley Steinfeld this summer, so, like, kind of puts the hype up around him. And, you know, he's been this guy who's, you know, small-town guy. He got re-up this offseason, so he got paid just to see, like, what his life is like. And then I'd be really interested to see, like, a Sam Darnold or a Daniel Jones just because of, like, what they've been through.
Yeah.
Both of them, probably more Sam Darnold than Daniel Jones, because I'll gladly admit that I did not think Daniel Jones was going to be worth the shit this year in Indianapolis, and he proved everybody wrong. But like a Sam Darnold story where, you know, you play for the Jets, you're in this terrible system, you're in this terrible environment.
Wasted a first-round pick, but
Yeah, everybody thinks he's a bust. You know, he has the ghost game where he says, like, he's mic'd up and says, "Yeah, I'm seeing ghosts out there," and just, you know, just looks like it's going to be an NFL bust, no career backup. And then he goes to Minnesota, wins the job, and plays lights out all year. And then, you know, goes to Seattle and does the same exact thing this year. Made the farther in the playoffs this year. But Sam Darnold would be cool too, just because of to hear his story about what went down behind the scenes in the New York building, where, you know, you are labeled as a bust and get shipped out of town for a 5th round pick after being a 1st round, 3rd overall pick.
Well, that was a great way that season 2 started with Jared Goff getting traded, and then it was Dan Campbell calling him up and saying, "Hey, there's a reason why we're bringing you in here. We're going to build a franchise around you." I mean, it's a great storyline. So to that point, Josh Allen would be a great one to have that documentary this year, especially when you look at the fall of Mahomes and Burrow and Lamar. I mean, just the narrative of that would be great, and it would be like the 4 Falls of Buffalo all over again at the end. You know, that would. I mean, if you're Buffalo, that sucks for you, but storyline, I think that would be great.
Well, yeah, like you said, you could have the one with Mahomes, Burrow, and Jackson. And since now that you have, like, to me, it's like, as far as the young guys, like, those are the top 4 or 5 guys. Plus, you said, plus the personal level. Plus, as they get over the hump, you know what I mean. So, like, I agree that Allen. I would think if these next couple of guys I'm going to mention are it, I'm going to think that maybe the NFL really is scripted. I always kind of scoff at that, but, like, it'd be really interesting because, honestly, because of the hype around, there's a reason why you had confidence in your own Broncos, in Bo Nix or Drake May, a second-year guy, or Caleb Williams. I can see that being
Caleb Williams.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, that was one of the bigger storylines for quarterbacks, how they blossom in year 2, and, like, it's the same Darnold and stuff, like moving teams. But really, the guys, like, okay, are they franchise guys? And obviously, as it's shown so far, like Jane Daniels being hurt last year, but what's on paper, like, you put the 2 years together, like, pretty good draft class for quarterbacks. So them having that success and 3 out of the 3 of them making it into the divisional round. I don't know who's going to be for this year, so I know who I'm going to go ahead and throw out there for season 4. I was like, but can we please next year make Jackson Dart for sure?
Like, just to see his life.
Just between him and Kim Scott, would be like, I mean, we can't get Johnny Manziel or
maybe
anymore. So
maybe like
the next best thing.
Or like a Baker Mayfield, I think would. I'm also very biased. But
I like, and people like Baker now.
Yeah.
So
and that would be the one thing about it is, I mean, you wouldn't have much of a story behind that. But the same thing, you don't know when you go in there to start filming that of how the season's going to play out.
Yeah.
And so, like from season 1 to season 2, they had Kirk Cousins. And then
You don't
get-
know he's going to get benched.
yeah, but you get to follow Kirk Cousins. I mean, you get to see his home life, and his wife buys his clothes at Kohl's and shit like that. So I don't know. I think that's a great series. So I'm just curious to see who they've got, and I honestly, I've got it. I'm thinking they're going to follow the Broncos. I think
Yeah.
that's what they did this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a hunch. Josh Allen would be good. So, yeah. The one thing that gets you through that offseason, watching a little bit to get you primed up.
Yeah. Gets you
So I don't know. That's
excited.
just wondering, who do you think that they followed this year? Because as the storylines come to an end with Josh Allen, if that's how that person's script ends on that show, it would be a phenomenal ending other than the loss.
Yeah, that'd be outrageous.
I think the other stories we mentioned would be more interesting and more current. But I mean, another one would be. I'm biased, but having Rodgers, is it his last year? Is it not in Pittsburgh with Tomlin? Like I can see that being.
The only problem with that is I don't think Rodgers would sign off on that. He seems like a very
Yeah, that's
he wants himself to be out there and he wants to be known,
Yeah.
but he also wants him to control it. Like like he had that Netflix documentary about him doing his ayahuasca trip.
Yeah.
Like he produced that. Like he had his hand in that pot. So I mean, Rodgers just seems, with lack of a better term, Rodgers just seems like a weirdo, which is perfect. I mean, it's worked out for him up to this point, but he just seems like
Yeah, I don't think he let him follow him around and they create the narrative of what they want to.
because I mean that happened enough with the Pat McAfee show, and he went on there every week. He was catching so much heat, and he was only on there for an hour a week. So imagine a whole, however many episode series of him doing whatever he does.
Well, I didn't want to derail our other conversation. I just want to get that out there. What your thoughts are? Who would you like to see, or do you think there is going to be somebody? So,
Be
That's a
interesting
good question.
for sure.
where are we at? What's next?
We're gonna recap the games that happened this weekend. We're gonna start off with the first game. We're just gonna go in order of it happening. The Broncos beat the Buffalo Bills 33-30. Exciting game all the way across. Josh Allen 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks. James Cook 24 yards and 24 carries on 117 yards. Josh Allen another 66. Dalton Kincaid 6 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown, with Khalil Shakir 75 yards, and then Ray Davis, backup running back, 33 yards. The biggest storyline, or at least them, is Josh Allen fumbling 3 times, losing 2, and then James Cook fumbling once and losing it. So I mean, the turnovers for the Bills really killed him. And then on the offensive side, I already talked about Bo Nix, 26 of 46, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Bo Nix, 12 carries and 29 yards. And then McLaughlin, 4 carries for 21, and Harvey, 6 carries for 20. Marvin Mims, the X factor we kind of talked about, that Broncos need to get involved to kind of get some big playability. Marvin Mims, 8 receptions for 93 yards and a touchdown, with Court Sutton, 4 receptions for 53 yards. And then R.J. Harvey out of the backfield, 46 yards. So, I mean, I feel like the biggest glaring stat in this one is turnovers. The Bills turned the ball over 5 times. The Broncos only turned the ball over 1 time. So, I mean, 5 turnovers, obviously, it's hard to come back from. And they did come back. We went into overtime with it. But, I mean, that last interception kind of killed it. The Bills had more time of possession, 40-29. Obviously, they were gashing the Broncos, rushing the ball early in the game. I was very concerned early on. I was like, James Cook first carry was 21 yards, and I was like, shit, this is going to be a long game for the defense. But we kind of settled down in the second. Got some key stops, and just the pass rushers I talked about last week had played a big role. I mean, obviously making Allen run around and take some big sacks, those 3 sacks, and then the strip sack by Bonito was huge, coming off the backside. And I mean, the 45 minutes between the Broncos winning the game and the Bo Nix news coming out was probably it's the happiest I've been in a while, just at least in my sports realm. Just pure pure joy of, we knocked Josh Allen out, and it was like how I talked about how, you want to beat the guy who's supposed to win it all this year, because then after you do that, it's not easy sailing, obviously. I mean, the Patriots are...
Yeah, you called it last week, said if you're going to play him, I want to play him now.
Yeah,
I want to
play
play
him
him,
now.
get this game done, and then let's go to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, let's go play the AFC Championship, and, you're rolling there with all the confidence in the world, and then, Peyton comes out and says Bo Nix is, done for the season with an ankle, and... we have Stiddy starting. I enjoy the Sean Payton, instead of saying his name, dropped his nickname in there, so a little more confidence in him. I think we still get it done. I think the formula changes a little bit how we win this game against the Patriots, but I think this formula is still about the same. I mean, obviously Stiddy's not going to make the off-schedule plays that Bo can do, and I don't think his legs are as mobile as Bo Nix, but I still think the formula is still the same with our, lean on the defense a little bit. The Patriots' offense isn't necessarily world-breaking by any means. They have a good run game. They'll rely on the run game. But I feel like this is the Broncos' kind of game to get it done. So, looking forward to it. And then for the Bills, obviously this led to Sean McDermott getting fired. This was the Bills' year. We've talked about it a lot, really. Is no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Jackson. They knocked Herbert out. So, all the AFC big names weren't really in it. And so, Josh Allen had to play Bo Nix, Stroud, or May. And,
Yeah, as we were watching that game, my older sister said, man, I really feel bad for Josh Allen. And that lasted about 10 minutes. And it was like, man, I really feel bad for Bo Nix.
Yeah. It's crazy. You can tell. I think I think whoever the Bills hire, I think they'll be back next year. I think you have Josh Allen. I think they definitely need to get him some he has weapons, but they need to get him some more guys that take the pressure off his back. Because I think the formula going into the game was, hey, Josh Allen's going to win us this game, and that's the second time this year that we've seen Josh Allen, kind of make some mistakes that didn't end up winning the game. So get the man some help. I think he deserves a Super Bowl. Obviously the Broncos beat him, so I'm happy, but I think Josh Allen does deserve a ring just because of I like his story. I like everything about what I've seen out of him, but just the team. It's a team game for a reason. You can't put it all on one guy and expect him to win games, especially in the playoffs against good defenses.
I was talking to Twitch on the way out here tonight. That I talked to our son last week. I said, so what do you think the formula is for the Broncos to win this game over the Bills? And he said the magic number is 30. That's what we have in our head is that, if you can keep the Bills from putting up more than 30 points, our defense will come out there and win some games. But he said if they score 30 points, we're going to have a hard time keeping up with that. And Josh Allen's strong in the red zone. We have to not commit turnovers. We have to get to him early. We got to force some fumbles. But it was crazy because I'm listening to this conversation, with Tristan on the phone, and then watching that game, and it goes into overtime, and it's 30-30. I thought, how crazy is that? That you talked about 30 is the number. If you can hold them to 30 or less, that you can go up there. Now it took going into overtime to put up more than 30 points, but I think that's going to be where you go into this game against the Patriots, and you look at we don't know what Stiddy's going to do. Tristan said he's taking a lot of reps with the first string offense. That there's, he's solid. They're going to be okay. I don't know what their game plan is as far as calling plays in there. I hope they don't get conservative because here's my take. When I was watching that game, and it was 10-10, getting ready to go into the half, then they come up and they open up the play, they throw the ball downfield, you get points, then get the crazy turnover, and then get a field goal on top of that, then get another fumble to start the second half. That's great. And then you're up by 13, and then what did we see with the play calling? It got conservative again, and then Buffalo scores 14 unanswered points. Now, I think, like you said, the formula this week changes a little bit, but I do feel like the Patriots probably aren't putting up 30 points on that Broncos defense. How many points do you think that they put up? So my number goes from 30 this week to 21. If you can hold them to less than 21 points, you're probably winning this game even with Steady. Don't shut down your play calling. You still got to get the ball downfield to open up and run. Let the defense come in there. To me, 0 penalties, 0 turnovers, put up 17, maybe it's a 17-14 or 21-17 game. And some of that's just me being optimistic, wanting the Broncos to win. So you say, what is it that you expect to see out of this with a positive outcome? That's what I'm thinking. That's why predict out of enthusiasm and optimism for this game. But my favorite game to watch this weekend for sure. What's your take on this last game? With
No,
the
so I think it
Bills
was.
Broncos?
I think it was obviously between the first and the last game were the two best games of the weekend, bar none. And I'll start with the Bills side. I mean, I said we kind of already touched on it. I said, but that's what I took from it was just you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And like I said, for only the second time I remember watching this year, other one being the Eagles game, where he just fell short. But it's just like, of course, when you're putting the whole thing on him when you lose, it's going to be because he's not perfect. Like that, it's such a fine line. It was just like that's, excuse me, what they were asking Allen to do with Buffalo. So it was just like, I wasn't surprised to see Buffalo lose. I did pick Buffalo to win, because of Josh Allen. But it's just like that's what I took from it was just hopefully that they get Allen some weapons. I said just because that was their whole thing was like, well, we got Josh Allen, that was it. And so like I'm not saying they don't have other good players or guys to make. Delvin Cook played a really great game. Yeah. I said, but that was if I'm a Buffalo fan too. I said I'm looking at numerous missed opportunities. We said besides being careless with the ball, the last interception, I think it was the right call, but trying to force the ball down there. I said, and when he didn't, I like the back being aggressive, and if he does catch it and the secondary player doesn't make a hell of a play, like they're in the for the game-winning field goal. But I said another play that not a lot of people out here talking about was like when it was still. What was it, 21? It was 24-23 Buffalo, and they were driving for the third straight drive, and Allen missed one that was right at the feet that would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
If it was just like it's kind of like the Philadelphia. If he makes that play 99 out of 100 times, I said, but he throws it right in the dirt, right, and the receiver can't quite catch it, and they had kept kicking the field goal, and that would be 27-23, and then obviously the events played out the way they did. But a game like that you're going to have that. There's several plays I can look back for Buffalo and just like they had plenty of opportunities. That touchdown right there, if they go up 31-23, I mean, who knows?
So this ends the debate, though, whether Josh Allen is just as good as Mahomes, because that's been, he's just as good as Mahomes. Nope.
No.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to see. McDermott get fired. I thought that was unfair. And then as far as like for Denver. Just kind of doing just showing what they did, competing with Buffalo throughout the first half, getting those 2 turnovers, and then being up by 13, and then for them to be able to weather the storm after Allen scored the 2 touchdowns and gets the ball back. There was a couple drives, there was a couple times, even on that before that last drive that Denver scored in regulation, where the catch was right there, the wide receiver bobbled it, or was just barely not quite there. So I feel like. Denver's defense, obviously, it's Josh Allen did Josh Allen things. So for all the bad because they lost, I said, but did a lot of awesome things too. So it's just like I don't look at Denver's defense as really like that being the issue. Put up a 30 burger. I feel like they played him really, really well, and I mean, we'll get to that here in just a minute. We were kind of going talking about the upcoming games,
Yeah.
But on the previous, obviously, I feel like the formula for the Broncos going forward is going to be very similar to their 2015 run, which, as Box reminds me, that Osweiler was the one that actually played most of those playoff games. So I feel like if there's I was shocked because I had my boys with me. We were with a friend of mine, a dad that also has 2 boys, and we were watching the game. We watched the end of it, and he gets the message 5-10 minutes later. It's like, oh, Bo Nix after the year, and I thought he was fucking with me. And so to find out, I was just shocked. Just really unfortunate because obviously a big reason why Denver's in this situation is because of Bo Nix's development. Just an incredible the touchdown to go up 30-27 there on that last drive, that last 2-minute drive, and that touchdown he threw in the left side was just a dart.
Yeah.
And I said kudos to the Broncos too for after getting stopped their first possession of overtime and to getting that stop and that hell of an interception. I said, but to not fold, knowing that if a lot of people would fold just the fact of well, Josh Allen only needs a field goal to win. So kudos to Sean Payton and Joseph, those guys for Denver and hanging in there and getting the win at home. Yeah, that's what I took from it was the defense hanging tough and unfortunately Bo Nix getting hurt. But I thought the question was Bo Nix doesn't have to be as good as Josh Allen, but Denver's defense is better than Buffalo. So he could compete at that level? And just like all year, every time Denver hasn't played anybody. Well, they play the Chiefs, and then they play the Eagles, and and every time he's had to answer that call, I feel like he's the Packers. I feel like Bo Nix has answered that call. So, just really unfortunate that he's not going to be available for him to the AFC Championship game, but bright things for the future.
Do you believe now?
I do.
It
I
was
laughed at the beginning of the year, but yeah.
I said it earlier, but it's just, I don't know. People always doubted Bo Nix. And, obviously there's been some low moments last year. And, this year was a lot of high moments. But, there's some, you pick apart plays. But I never, as a Broncos fan, I'm not going to hate on my quarterback. I believed. I bought a shirt, in September last year that I believed. And then, I've been on the Broncos, not really bandwagon, because, I've been on the bandwagon even when we had Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, and Case Keenum, and Joe Flacco, and Teddy Bridgewater.
I still have a picture.
And Brett Rippling, and we can just go through the list.
I still have a picture of you when you were dressed up for Halloween as a little kid, as Peyton Manning.
Selling Papa John's pizzas.
Selling Papa John's pizzas.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So, I've been a Broncos fan ever since Tebow. I don't know why, but Tebow is my guy. I still have my Tebow shirt. Freaking love Tim Tebow. I didn't realize how shitty he was as a quarterback. He's a great person. I'm glad that I choose him as a role model. But yeah, crazy to talk about. But yeah, I'll break down the game or AFC Championship game a little bit later when we get to it. But the next game, an absolute snooze fest. Unless if you're a Seahawks fan, I was with the Seahawks fan watching the game, and he was going ballistic the whole time. He may or may not have been intoxicated as well. He may or may not have blacked out because we were doing a shotgun every time they scored. So
that's a dangerous game.
Yeah, he got pretty cooked pretty early because this game was a blowout.
13 seconds in,
41-6. The Seattle Seahawks beat the 49ers. Brock Purdy 15-27, 140 yards, 1 interception. Brock Purdy also led the team in rushing yards with 37. CMC 11 carries for 35 yards. Receiving wise, Jake Tones 5 receptions, 59 yards. Their backup tight end, so he stepped up in a big way for Kittle. CMC 5 receptions for 39 yards. Juwan Jennings 2 receptions for 23. This game was an absolute.
49ers were just stagnant.
Yeah, it was just a snooze fest offensively for them. On the Seattle side, which is kind of crazy to think about, you hear the score. Sam Darnold, 12 for 17 for 124 yards and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, 19 carries for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, 5 receptions of 60 yards. Kenneth Walker, 2 receptions of 29. JSN, 3 receptions for 19 yards and a touchdown. So, you look at those offensive stats and you don't really think anything of it. You don't think it's anything too crazy, but obviously you get a special teams touchdown. And then the defense is giving you short fields. Giving you short fields the whole game. Proves that, 41-6, you could have a quarterback that passes for 124 yards in a divisional game and win the game with their rush game as well. So, lights out performance by Seattle, all 3 phases, even though offense didn't really have to do much to contribute. Obviously the run game, but Sam Darnold, who I said was the reason they were going to lose the game because he was going to put the ball in bad situations, but he only threw the ball 17 times, so that's a really good way to eliminate that factor there. So it'll be interesting to see how the Rams, I think the Rams' run defense is a little bit better than the 49ers. We've seen it all year. They've shut down some big-time running backs. So I'm excited for the NFC Championship as well, but, this game was over at half. It was basically over after the first. It felt like momentum was on the Seahawks' favor after the first play of the kickoff return touchdown. It just felt like it was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
It
was. It was. You already touched on this. It's just how close the first 2 games were between the Niners and Seahawks. Even though the Seahawks won 13-3 a couple weeks ago, you figure it's still going to be close to the divisional opponent. Like I said, we talked about last week. I picked the Seahawks, but I was still I thought Shanahan would keep it close, and was kind of worried about okay, he's got a trick up his sleeve, and like I said, that just completely opened the entire game up. Was the return for the touchdown? It allowed Seattle to do what it does best and let the defense pin their ears back. They stopped San Francisco early, and in less than 10 minutes into the game, it was already 10-0 Seahawks. So it definitely played into their strength. and then just a hell of a defensive play. I don't know if it was Irving or who was it for Lawrence. I don't know who it was, but the fumble.
Yeah,
where San Francisco, the tight end makes a great catch, and then they get the fumble, and then they strip it, and they get the ball on the Niners side of the field, and then they end up scoring a few plays later to make it 24, and then it was just the floodgates opened. I mean, I mean, they just complete dominant performance by Seattle. Like I said, that's why I've been so high on them all year, is because of like just the balance they have. Yeah, it sucks not having Charbonnet, but again, Walker having a good performance all the way through. Getting Cooper Kupp involved, even getting like the number 4 to 5 receiver. He only threw it 17 times.
Yeah.
But when you're getting Smith-Njigba, and you still saw contributions out of Snead, like who's a number 2, and a lot of other teams, and with New Orleans, as the number 2 guy, and then you got Cooper Kupp. So it's just like they've just got so much balance. And the same thing as you. We talked about it last week about exactly that. About the main keys is not turning the ball over. And if you're Sam Darnold, that was my one fear. And then on the flip side of that, like when Seattle gets the ball, they flip the field. 9 times out of 10, when they get it, it's for a touchdown, a pick six, a scoop and score, something like that. So just all 3 phases. And again, I don't want to get too much off topic of just the game itself, but I've been sold on Seattle since September, October. They were playing the Cardinals, which of course were terrible this year. I think it was actually the 9th game of the year. And the reason I remember that is because Smith-Njigba had already had that game and went already over 1,000 yards, and almost 100 by quarter number 2 of the 9th game of the year. And I think they were up 35-0 with 10 minutes to go in the second quarter, something like that, against the Cardinals. Well, Cardinals, who actually did okay on offense with Jacoby Brissett, they go all the way down the field, and they get first and goal at like the 5-yard line. And in a 35-0 game, middle of the season, and Seattle holds them. Arizona goes for four straight plays. They go for it, and on the 3rd and 4th down play, not only as they're getting pressure consistent, I mean they get pressure like Houston or like Denver. It's like this. It seemed like there was one point in the first half, or maybe it's the start of the second half, where out of 22 dropbacks, Brock Purdy was hurried on 12 of them. So guys constantly in their face. They make you pay, athletic, and I only bring up that Cardinal random ass game because that showed me everything right there. Like, not only how balanced they were, but it was 35-0, and they're going for it on 3rd and 4th down. And the Seahawks were playing like it was the Super Bowl. They ended up stopping them, and like the defensive line gets pressure, and then about 4 or 5 guys hit the guy in the backfield for a loss. I'm just like, that's a team that's willing to fight. They're fighting. They're competitive for every single down. Doesn't matter that it was 35-0. So you add that with the balance and the coaching and that mentality. Like I don't know. I was very impressed with Seattle. Like I'm hoping that it's not a hangover. Like, no matter what sport, not even just pro football, but sometimes you see those teams that, KU basketball's in March Madness, they'll play like that, and the next week they come out and just play an egg. I hope that's not the case. Really excited to see the 3rd installment because of the first 2 we talked about. We'll get to that in a minute too, but we talked about a month ago when the Rams played the Seahawks that was probably going to be the NFC title game, and here we are a month later. Yeah. But just complete dominant performance. So if you could score 41 points and still be like resting guys halfway through the 4th quarter, only making Sam Darnold throw 17 times, with a Niners team that had been one of the hotter teams coming into the playoffs and a divisional opponent, and Seattle just came out and punched them in the mouth. I said, if they play like that, I don't see. Sorry to say to the Broncos, but I don't see who beats Seattle, because I feel like, and I'm not saying I'm picking them, but I feel like as far as like top to bottom depth, and there's more talent with Seattle, but I feel like teams that don't beat themselves normally, other than Sam Darnold with the turnovers, are the Seahawks and the Patriots. When you watch, like from top to bottom, they just don't make mistakes. They're solid in all 3 phases. I look at a complete team, and like, I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say much about San Francisco other than too many injuries, and it kind of caught up to them. And then once they were down by 17, then it just opened the floodgates, and it just played right into what Seattle wanted to do. So. And how about, you talked about Seattle being your defensive player of the week. 2 games in a row, they allowed, less than 60 yards the last time, and I think it was less than 80 total yards this game, something like that. So, holding McCaffrey under the last 2 games to less than 150 yards combined, like less than 100 both games. But, completely just took him out of the game. It'll be really interesting. That's going to be a tough place on Sunday. That place is going to be rocking. Seattle having one of the louder stadiums in the NFL. So I'm excited about that game. And for San Fran, they'll be fine. I mean, to me, the last month and a half reaffirmed for me what I already thought from a couple of years ago, which I do think that Brock Purdy wasn't overrated, that he can be that guy with pieces around him. And Kyle Shanahan, regardless of what happened that last playoff game, I still feel like Shanahan, you can name a lot of candidates, Mike Vrabel, Sean Payton, for keep turning like Ben Johnson. There's plenty of guys that you could put, but I would probably still McDonald for Seattle, but I would still say Shanahan deserves to be coach of the year, just for the number, not just players, superstars that they lost, and the fact that they were in the second round of the playoffs. The fact that down to the last week of the season they were still playing for the 1 seed in their conference is just nothing short of phenomenal. So, they'll still have McCaffrey next year still under contract. They can go get him some wide receiver help, but not a lot to touch on, other than, the injuries just kind of caught up with them. I feel got some good contributions out of the number 2 tight end. So maybe that's something they build out next year, because they'll probably start the year off with Kittle, and Kittle can't seem to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something where they develop more packages with that tight end. So
Very much so. Rolling into our next game. First snow game of Sunday. I don't know what it is, but snow football games are always exciting, even if it's not a very good football game. Which this one, the score reflects. The score does not reflect how I felt like the game went. I felt like the Patriots were in control basically the whole time. Even when the Texans were up, I feel like there was no panic in the Patriots. But the Patriots got a 28-16 win over the Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud, 20 of 47, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. Woody Marks, 14 carries for 17 yards. Nick Chubb, 4 carries for 14 yards. Jaden Higgins, 6 receptions of 59, with Dalton Schultz, 2 for 47. Woody Marks losing a fumble in there. Offensively, 4 interceptions is outrageous, and our Patriots who have very little mistakes, which we saw. Drake May on the other side, 16 to 27, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Texans defense still got 5 sacks on him. They were in his face the whole game, and he's still 3 touchdown passes. The running game, Ramondre Stevenson, 16 carries for 70 yards, with Trayvon Henderson, 12 of 25. Keyshawn Boutte, 3 receptions for 75 yards and a tutty. Stephon Diggs, 4 receptions to 40 yards and a touchdown. And then Demario Douglas, 2 receptions of 36 yards and a touchdown in there. So, this game was, I think Twitch hit on it last week, but the Patriots are a team that's not going to make mistakes, and they're going to optimize your mistakes, and they clearly did. 4 interceptions, 1 got taken to the house by the Patriots, and then Drake May 3 touchdown passes. He did throw an interception, which has been rare this year, but still, with that, playing that Texan defense, it was bound to happen. I think C.J. Stroud's obviously going to take 95% of the heat from this loss.
Rightfully so.
As he should. That defense, we saw that defense was legendary. Statistically wasn't necessarily the best we've ever seen, but it was a really good statistically defense, and on the field just playing lights out. Even on Drake May's touchdown passes, he was getting hit. Let me check their QB hits.
You're talking about 3 guys that backed it up. But, between all the Pro Bowlers, but we're talking about the All-Pro list, 3 All-Pro players.
Yeah. Both your defensive ends are first-team and second-team dudes.
Yeah.
So, definitely solidified themselves as the number 1 pass rush duo in the league, and with Hunter and Anderson. And then on the back end with Stingley Jr.
Yeah.
Just a great defense. Offensively, just let him down. Interesting to see what happens with Stroud. I think, he's going to come back next year, and he probably has a couple more years to play out. But if that's the reason that they don't win, I could see them moving on from Stroud in a way. But
I was pulling up our group chat there, the Twitch Box group chat.
The Patriots deserve the flowers. Obviously, they played a Patriots-type game where, we're not going to make mistakes. We're going to capitalize their mistakes, and they did that, and Drake May proved that he definitely deserves that being that MVP conversation. Obviously, the vote's already in, so it's already this week didn't matter for the vote wise. But Drake May playing lights out football, little mistakes. The run game got enough done. And then I'm still, I don't know if it's surprised. I'm impressed with their wide receiving core of, Keyshawn Booty, who was, a first-round pick receiver back in the day, is kind of washed out and then kind of found a home in New England along with Stephon Diggs, who was at the back end of his career. Same concept, former first-round receiver, had some big plays, and then he's kind of been dropped off and then stepping up. And then Mario Douglas, who's been a wide receiver 4 his whole career, has kind of stepped up in that wide receiver 3 role, catching a touchdown in there. So, kind of doing it by committee offensively, and it's enjoyable to watch. And also, I didn't realize the Patriots tight end room had both Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry, who were guys, talk about 5 years ago would have been in the conversation of top 10 tight ends in the league. Yeah. Really big play, lights out tight ends who are now both on the Patriots. So, they have dudes everywhere. You just kind of never really heard of them or kind of forgot about them. So I'm excited to see what this Patriots-Bronco game looks like. And then you got a feel for that Texans defense and Mario Douglas, or their head coach. You got a feel because he has that he has that defense playing outrageous, and then you see what happened out there. So that's my take. Is C.J. Stroud needs to either figure it out or they need to move on because that defense is too good to be wasted.
Yeah, I feel like. He's won a playoff game before, even last week. Yeah. I like the kid. I like his story. I think he's probably a humble enough guy. I like C.J. Stroud. There's been times, especially his rookie year, he hasn't played at that level, I feel, as consistently since. But we kind of talked about going to the game. That would be the one thing. If Houston, I picked Houston to win. It just seems like with New England, even though they lost to the Bills the month before, it's against all the other good teams, they said they don't beat themselves, and everybody else they've been completely dominant. And I just, like you said, I feel like the final score wasn't near as indicative of the actual game because I never really felt like Houston was really threatening. Some of that could be, hopefully Houston goes out and gets some offensive weapons. Kirk's a good piece they got from Jacksonville, a good player, but I don't consider him a one or a great player. Nico Collins, rightfully so, is a great wide receiver. He was hurt, so you can kind of put some of that on him. But I said, if us three, no offense to any of us, we're not NFL, we're not getting paid to be for this podcast. If we know that the one thing you can't do is as long as C.J. Stroud doesn't turn the ball over, and I saw this a month ago when they were playing the Chargers on that Saturday game right before Christmas. There was just kind of there was 3 or 4 other games, three or four other. He turned the ball over twice the first half. And there was 3 or 4 other times where defensive backs dropped it or they could get both feet in bounds. But you're not going to be able to do that shit in Foxborough or Mile High, and it came back to bite him in the ass finally. So I like Stroud. I get it that New England is kind of under the radar. They have a top-notch defense. Playing at Foxborough has never been an easy place to play. So I get all that, but that's what I took from it. It was just sloppy on the offensive side of the ball, not enough weapons, and just too careless with the ball. They played right into the Patriots' hand, where then it allowed the Patriots to be able to be conservative and play the Patriot way. Just don't beat themselves. And so Drake May made enough plays for the Patriots. Greg and I, something else we were talking about on the way over here, for people that are just the Patriots and the Broncos didn't play anybody. It's they played and beat everybody that was in front of them. And both of them have beat plenty of other good teams. And say what you want, and I get that part of the reason why Denver's in this position. And again, I hate that we keep previewing before the preview part of the show. But the 2 teams that have won 15 out of 16 games are the Broncos and Patriots. And then you have the Rams, Seahawks the next round, or on the other side. So it's I definitely feel what I said in the divisional round, if you talk about just consistency, because you can put the Packers, you can put the Bills and the Bears, whatever. But you talk about consistent, these are probably the 4 most consistent teams. The Texans had won 13 straight, so they were right on that cusp too. Yeah. It is. It's real. I'm really sad because I've been all over the Texans nuts for 2 or 3 months. It was just a fun defense. You don't see teams not only stop offenses in an offensive run league and the rules slated for offense, but to win games by themselves. And the way they shut down Lawrence and Mahomes and Jackson and Rodgers, which isn't saying as much, but Josh Allen. So, like I said, and it's not like Drake May just tore it up, but C.J. Stroud going 20 of 47 attempts, but 4 turnovers, and still only 200 yards passing. That tells you all you need to know. But for the Patriots, I said, I mean, this is just like the Broncos. They've won 15 out of 16 games, and I feel like I said in the divisional round. I'll say for the AFC Championship round, or I'm sorry, the championship round, is just that I feel like we got the 4 best or most consistent teams throughout the year in the next round. And so Patriots deserve to be there. Hell of a job. If it doesn't go to Shanahan, I'd say my other coach of the year would probably be Mike Vrabel. So guy we all like and respect, and didn't think he got a fair shot in Tennessee. So he's definitely got that team. And it's hard because like I just felt like you try not to blame the rest, but I just felt like there was something mystique. And, I mean, rightfully so. Tom Brady might be go down as like the best ever, but I felt like he always got like aided by calls. It seemed like the Patriots would have one call go that it would be called this way, and then that same situation would happen in the next week and be called the other way. That's just my opinion. But my point in that is like this Patriots team, and we've said this before, so I'm sorry to beat a dead horse, but it reminds me so much of the 2001 Patriots team with a bunch of no-names, blue-collar guys, good players, but not a lot of all-pro type players. But that first team that before they started winning the 3 out of 4, the first couple of Brady's, like when they were coming up, and it's just I feel like obviously Mike Vrabel being part of those teams has brought that culture back to New England, to where they're set up in the long term, and said that's their identity. So like I was impressive wins because like the Patriots, I said they blew a 21-point lead to the Bills. I said, but the fact they were even up by that much, and the fact they still won the division over Josh Allen, and it's just what did I say? But here, all the talk this week was about the Texans' defense, and the Patriots just another convincing win. They did just take care of business. So anyway, that's what I took from it. Disappointing loss, so hopefully a learning lesson. C.J. Stroud will get another year. Hopefully they can keep that defense together and add some offensive pieces. And for the Patriots, just rolling into the AFC Championship red hot. So, yeah.
Very much so. Rolling into the last game here, another overtime shootout, another snow game. The LA Rams beat the Chicago Bears 20-17 in overtime. Caleb Williams, 23 of 42, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. DeAndre Swift, 19 carries of 76 yards. Caleb Williams, 5 rushes of 40. Colston Loveland stepping up big in that, first-round pick, proving why he deserved to go 7th overall or whatever he did to the Bears. 4 for 56. DJ Moore, 52 yards and 1 touchdown. Romo Dunze, 2 for 44. And then Cole Kmet catching the other touchdown pass. Also had 31 yards through the air. Luther Burden, 3 receptions and 24 yards. But I feel like all 24 of those yards were fun to watch. He's a big play receiver. He's fast, jukey. For the Rams on the other side, 258 yards from Stafford, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Kyron Williams, 21 carries, 87 yards and 2 tutties, with Blake Corum, 6 and 19. Colby Parkinson, 3 receptions for 56 yards. Puka Nacua, 5 for 56. Jordan Whittingham, 2 for 35. And Devontae Adams, 2 for 24. So, this game was a defensive shootout. Great plays on both sides. I think the biggest category in this one is 3 interceptions by Caleb. I feel like that's the real decision maker in this one. The Bears defense played lights out. Caleb, I feel like you kind of have to put this one on Caleb, even though he got him into overtime with a crazy throw that, it went down in the stat sheet. I think it was a 40-yard touchdown, but he ran back to the 50-yard line, if not the opposite 50 or the opposite 45. He was running back trying to make a play, throws it off his back foot to the back left corner of the end zone, and his tight end's there to catch it, and just wide open. Everybody's like, oh, that's pass interference. But, when the play goes on that long, there's going to be pass interference in the end zone just because guys trying to run around and make plays. So, an absolute dime by Caleb. And then, throws an interception. It's really stupid interception. And, the Rams go down and score the field goal to win it. But, Caleb Williams, I think interception was worse than Josh's because at least Josh's guy was there and got hands on it. Caleb Williams' interception was
another overthrown ball.
Yeah, overthrown ball that just landed right in the defensive guy's hands. So, I think the Bears proved a lot this year. Obviously, I didn't think they'd make it this far. Even when I was getting high on them in the middle of the season, I was like, they'll be knocked out in the wild card. I
Right.
think they need another year, and I think another year in this offense would be great. I talked about this before the pod, but Caleb Williams makes crazy plays. Not to sound like Chris Collinsworth, but he makes Mahomes likes plays. Like we watched him run back 25 yards, 35 yards, and throw an absolute dot. And then, we see him make some crazy plays, but then, we talk about the overthrow. So I'm excited to see what he grows into as a player under Ben Johnson, for sure. But for the Bears, I think, it's just another year in the system under Ben. We'll get that offense clicking. And then defensively, I think they're a solid defense. We've talked about them all year as top 10 defense, top 5 defense at times. And then for the Rams, I mean, they're playing another week. Stafford didn't even have to throw a touchdown pass to get it done. He got sacked 4 times. So I think the Bears kind of put out a formula how to get Stafford off track, make him move around. He's old. He doesn't want to move around in the cold. Yeah. And so, I mean, they're playing in Seattle, so I'm excited for that game for sure. Another rematch. The first one, the Rams won. Sam Darnold had threw 4 interceptions, and then the second one, Seattle won in Seattle, and Sam Darnold had his revenge game. And
that was such a great
Thursday it was just game. It was one of the 2 best Thursday night football games of the year, with the other one being the 49ers and the Bears. Second to last week of the year. So I'm excited for the NFC Championship, very much so. I think it'll be a totally different game than it will be for the Broncos-Patriots game. I think it'll be 2 different styles of game. I think this Rams-Seahawks game will be maybe a shootout, kind of like what we saw in the overtime game. And I think the Broncos, not to preview, but the Broncos-Patriots will be a low-scoring defensive slugfest. So
I agree.
But this game was fun another snow game, fun to watch. Really defensive shootout, went into overtime, so you can't really ask too much more for extra football in the playoffs.
Yeah, going all the way down to the last 3 minutes of overtime, and like, I just to me it was more about Chicago losing it, because all year with Chicago, I think that they'll be fine. To me, I feel like Chicago's kind of like this year's Commanders, in the sense of like, nobody expected to be there. Everything after this was basically playing with house money, like it was last year with the Commanders. So another year with Ben Johnson, adding another receiver to go with Moore and some of those other guys, like keeping Swift for another year will be huge. Like if they go get another tight end, I feel like Chicago's got the pieces. But all year long, we're just like, is Chicago for real? Like we want to root for them. They've been kind of not as relevant over the last decades. So you kind of want to see them get over the hump, but we were all kind of reserved. Like, how would they do when they get to this stage? Like you said, like, oh, they're legit enough, and I became a believer that they were at least legit when they beat the Eagles, but I didn't really see them making it past, like I said, like wild card or divisional round. And so for them to I felt like this was more Chicago losing than even the Rams, even though we've been high on the Rams all year. It's just like they definitely had all the momentum, had their chances, and like I said, we've been talking about Williams all year long, and that there's too many times where it's overthrown balls or the easy throws, or he's inaccurate. But with the game's on the line, most of the time he's been making the clutch throws. So some great things. I said I still go back to it's easy after the fact, and I like the aggressiveness. And if it works out, then I'm the idiot. But you leave those 6 points on the board, that interception, and then the interception in overtime when you're about midfield, when they could have that would have been a time. I don't feel like that's the time to take the shot.
Yeah.
And so, like you're talking about, in my opinion, 9 to 12 points off the board in a 3-point game. You had him on the ropes. You definitely, and like I said, when he threw that touchdown, I thought Chicago's going to win this. And so when they stopped the Rams the first time, I thought there's no way. They had all the momentum in the world. That was the first time I actually believed Chicago was going to be in the NFC Championship game. So great defensive performance by both teams. Like I said, a heartbreaker if you're a Bears fan. But I said, again, if you're being honest, I don't think anybody, including Bears fans, had them going this far. So you got 2 miraculous, great wins against your rival. You're no longer the little brother. So hopefully they carry on. If you're a Bears fan, hopefully they carry that over next year over the Packers. I think the Lions will be back. The Vikings will be better. So it's a tough division. But I feel like I'll stand corrected. I'm not afraid to say I wasn't 100% sold on drafting Williams, because it's kind of like with Shadir. And the reason I bring up Shadir is because, you lose 4 or 5 games at, Williams with UCLA. You see those plays, but there's other times where you're just like, you played mediocre against a 23rd ranked team. There's no, I don't know. It's different competition in the NFL. And I stand corrected. I feel like Williams showed this year that if he figures that part out of it, and is more consistently accurate and can do that. Because, like I said, he seems like he makes the hard throws and the easy throws. So just learning those things, I said, but I feel like he has definitely showed this year that he could be a franchise quarterback and be a good quarterback in this league and maybe take him there with the right pieces. And so great job by Ben Johnson. On the flip side, the Rams have been there all year. We know what they are. It was, until they gave up that miraculous touchdown, and said, like, a great defensive performance when their offense was not playing their best game. I feel like they won that game because of, besides the defense, but Puka Nacua still continued to show up, and like why him and will have that 1A, 1B best receiver in the NFL this year in the same game next week in the NFC title game. I said, but Puka Nacua, just like you could tell the final drive between him and it's really Puka. That last drive, once the Rams got the ball back, and then just like he had leaned on him the week before in Carolina when they needed a score, Stafford found his guys and was confident under pressure. That's why you go get a veteran like Matthew Stafford. And for the second week in a row, I said, you and I were talking about before the podcast, the Jedi, if you haven't had a chance to look at that, the Jedi coat move that Stafford gets after they got the ball back and just takes his coat.
Yeah, he was locked in, he was ready to go. So.
Yeah, so like I said, that's why you got a guy like Stafford. I said not their best performance offensively, but with the game on the line, they did just enough. And they're still going to be a tough out. And they said they know Seattle. Seattle knows them. It's a divisional game. And so, but the second straight week, Matthew Stafford and his veteran leadership and getting the ball to his best playmakers in the big-time moments. Like I said, I agree. Like, it was that game, obviously, and the Bills-Broncos that were by far the two best games of the weekend. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Before we make our predictions about it, I'm going to go over the national championship. Indiana Hoosiers won the national championship 27-21 over the Miami Hurricanes. First Kirk Cignetti, crazy turnaround. He's only lost 2 games at Indiana in the last 2 years. Takes Indiana 16-0 to the Natty. Absolute crazy turnaround from the Cignetti. And I guess he was right in his first interview when they said, why should they hire him? And he said, I win, Google me. I mean, all he's done is win at Indiana. Been lights-out coach. Carson Beck finishes his career, deserves a shout-out. 232 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Their running back, Mark Fletcher Jr., future NFL running back at this rate, 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. Absolute menace running the ball, just runs hard, runs pissed off. And then Malachi Tony, who should be a senior in high school, he's 17 years old, 122 yards and a touchdown. Just a crazy playmaker, special teams and offensively for the Hurricanes. Hurricanes laid it all out there. Their defense is elite. Fred Taylor, obviously the linebacker coach. I mean, they have studs all over the place.
Yeah.
Put Mendoza in some situations, but Fernando Mendoza, Heisman winner. I mean, he put the team on his back. 186 yards through the air. Kalen Black, JMU transfer on the ground, 79 yards. Mendoza, he had -8 yards because of how, he was running for his life on that Miami defense, but had a 12-yard rushing touchdown to put him up and win the game, basically. Indiana punt block and capitalized on mistakes, and it was a crazy game. It was fun to watch Indiana win, but it's also nice. It's nice to know Miami's back. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's fun when, at least a team from Florida is good at football, just because it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like, even when it's Florida or or Florida State or Miami, enjoying watching that. And then, I mean, fun watching Indiana win it after 2 years with Cignetti and just the kind of team that they had. And, Mendoza in the press conference, he's like, I'm so excited for my boys. I'm excited, for whatever's next. I think Mendoza solidified himself as the first overall pick to the Raiders, unless the Raiders trade out of it. I mean, Tom Brady and Al Davis were there on the field watching him, and they're the GM. So, I mean, I think he's number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
But it's just fun to watch Mendoza's moxie and how that Indiana team went 16-0, and it feels like it's almost impossible to go 16-0 in this new NIL era with, all these transfers and all the millions of dollars thrown to these guys at transfer schools. Yeah. It's fun to watch what Indiana's done, and I think they're reloading for next year. Their transfer class has been crazy this year. They've got studs from every school you can think of coming in out of the transfer portal. So excited for Indiana. Fun little stat is all the national champions this year. So D1, FCS, D2, NAIA, all came from the Midwest this year.
Shout out.
Yeah, so, Indiana obviously is from Indiana. The D2 Natty went to Michigan, or went to Fair State, who's in Michigan. The D3 went to Wisconsin River Falls, and, obviously in Wisconsin. Grandview won the NAIA out of Iowa, and then Iowa Western won the JUCO National Championship, and they're also out of Iowa. Oh, wow. So, all Midwest teams winning the Natties there. Fun to look at. Doesn't really... It's fun. Kansas is part of the Midwest, so it's fun just to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see Indiana win it because obviously everybody always talks about they're irrelevant forever. Nobody, easy win in the Big Ten.
Basketball school.
Yeah, basketball school and all this. And Signetti's came in 2 years and dominated. So excited to see what next year looks like for them. But that's our last college football talk of the year. We'll probably get more into it when we get around the draft. Break down some of who we think's going to go where. But
there was the first 16-0 team I think they said last night since like 1897 Yale or something like that.
Yeah.
Over 107 years, and the only school to have, the only NCAA basketball champion was Bob Knight in '75.
Yeah.
That went undefeated in college basketball. So now they have that and the only undefeated football team. And like you said, like it can't be. I don't even watch college football as much as I used to, but just the fact of like everything that Signetti has done is just turns to gold, and it's just like and literally they kept saying it last night, like a movie type year for Signetti.
Yeah.
You have Indiana bottom, they said maybe 3 wins a year type program to 16-0 national title, and not to take the focus off the game or Indiana, I said, but like for so many years it's been SEC football, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, rightfully so. Yep. Third straight year we've had somebody from the Big Ten that has won the national title, going back to Michigan and Ohio State before Indiana. And I think obviously Indiana's going to be here to stay.
Yeah, I think Indiana's a perennial.
Right. But just, I said I agree with it. It was nice that even though I grew up a Florida State fan, Miami was like hated rival number 1. It was nice to see them relevant and like, it was a great back and forth game. I said I felt like I had mixed feelings about the officiating just because, and I'm sorry we have to comment on officiating on every game now, but I feel like I like the fact they let them play, but I feel like there were so many missed calls. There's a difference. There was a couple times where like they hit Mendoza. It just showed, like you said, his toughness, his moxie. After the game, they showed Mendoza's arm, and it's all completely about as red as his jersey. And it got a busted lip from a helmet to helmet they didn't call. But just a great back and forth game. Like I said, the special teams, the total team win by Indiana, getting that block punt, then Miami making the big play, and then Mendoza making the play. In my opinion, the play of the game, that touchdown was just incredible. Why he was the Heisman winner, and then Miami getting the chance at the end and scoring on the play drive before that. So I thought the game lived up to the hype and was a good game, and I was happy that Indiana won. And that's all I got to say.
Very enjoyable national championship.
Yeah.
Like last year, I felt like Ohio State was going to win it the whole time, even though Notre Dame kind of kept it close. The year before, Michigan obviously dominated that game. So it was fun to have one that actually went down to the wire.
Yeah.
But excited to see what Mendoza does for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Sorry you have to come to the AFC West with, the defenses that are out here and the quarterback play and all that. But it'll be fun to watch him.
With
be able to,
Knicks and Herbert.
Yeah. I'll be excited to watch him play because, I'm glad he's going to a team I actually get to watch. Unlike Cam Ward, enjoyed Cam Ward highlights this year just because of what he had. But that's going to roll into our games here. Obviously, championship games. First game, we're going to go over the 2:00 game on CBS. My boy Tony Romo calling the game again. So excited.
So we're going to hear a little bit about Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, we're probably going to hear about Patrick Mahomes again this week on this broadcast. But we have the Patriots going out to Denver and playing the Denver Broncos. As of right now, 58% of the money is on the New England Patriots. So, this everybody's betting on. Obviously, I'm picking the Broncos to win. Just come out here and say that. I think Steady gets it done. I think this is our kind of game where, we last week was, I guess, 30 was the number that we wanted to hold the Bills to, and we did exactly 30. And I think this week the Patriots obviously don't have Josh Allen. Drake May is a good quarterback. Drake May deserves respect and deserves, the credit after this year he deserves his flowers. But I think this is our defensive game. Stidham needs to go out there and not have turnovers. and not make boneheaded throws. I'm still fine being a little aggressive, get Mims involved on the deep ball, throw some jump balls to Sut up the sideline, and then, have that second wide receiver spot. We had this last week, we had several receivers. Obviously, the guy out of Illinois that we picked, I can't think of his name right now, he got hurt early, and then we had Bailey, not Bailey, I'm blanking on their names. By committee, our wide receiver 2 position's been, stepped up last week in a big way. And then, I think we can. The rush defense obviously kind of scared me for the Bills, and obviously the Patriots were going to come out and run the ball too. But I think we get the run game established. We take the pressure off Stidham to have to, make those big time throws and maneuver the pocket. I'm excited to watch this game even without Bo Nix playing, just because I think our defense can get us there. I think we can rely on our pass rushers to put pressure on May. I think our secondary is good enough to, run with these receivers. And their offense, I'm not going to say they're lackluster because these guys have proven that they're solid NFL players. But I think it comes down to making Drake May throw the ball more than 30 times and trying to take away that run game and make him make mistakes against our secondary with PS2 and Moss and Huff back there.
Is Frank Crum going to get another touchdown this week?
Yeah, I hope Frank Crum gets another touchdown.
I got text from you and your mom. Love it when a big guy gets a touchdown. 315-pound back offensive.
Wyoming undrafted free agent dude scores a touchdown. Yeah, it was funny because I didn't just literally sent it to that group chat and then saw my mom texted the group chat with Trailer Swift and LSV in it. I was like, that's hilarious. That it was just, what are the odds of that?
Everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, everybody's on the same page on that one. So I'm excited to watch this game. I think, even being in this position with how good the year's been, to still think that our highest paid player is Russell Wilson, who's the third string quarterback on the Giants. But to think he's our highest paid player right now, that makes me excited for next year. That I think, I'm kind of happy that we held off getting a true wide receiver 1 and/or /2. In this free agency and stuff, waiting for that money to open up so we can pay him instead of trading draft picks for him. So I'm excited to see. I'm not saying it's offseason already, but I think the Russell Wilson thing definitely is something I talked about last year as well with, we made the wild card with paying Russell Wilson. We paid him, I think we owed him like 60 last year. This year it's only 30. So, it's sad to see Bo Nix go down, but I still have faith in our defense to get it done. If it was the Texans, I'd be shitting my pants and a lot less optimistic. But I still think Stidham can get it done. Mike Vrabel came out and said that they tried to sign him this offseason. He said, if you don't want your starting quarterback to get hurt, sign this guy just because he thinks he's a – and, last time he played 3 years ago was the last time he threw an NFL pass, not in the preseason. He threw for 336 yards and 3 touchdowns against that Niners team that went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a solid NFL backup. So I have faith in him. I think he can get it done. I think the game plan changes a little bit, but I still hope Sean Payton's aggressive. I still hope we try to establish the run game a little bit more this week, but I still think we'd be aggressive. Throw some of those deep balls and get Mims involved. We, kind of empty out the playbook and see if we can make it to the Super Bowl. And then when you get to the dance, anything's possible. So,
yeah, because I think that's what the Patriots' game plan is going to be: is make him throw the ball. Let's go in there and stack the box. Stop the run, and so you can't get conservative in that situation. It's design some play calls that fit in his wheelhouse. Have some situational plays stacked up. I said the Frank Crum one just cracked me up.
Yeah.
So have a couple things in there, like if you get down into goal line situation, things that other teams haven't seen, can't prepare for. Don't turn the ball over.
Yeah. And then also Jarrett Stidham, he's obviously. He's not going to hear it, but if he was to hear this, go get yourself a 2-year, $30 million contract for the Jets next year. Go have them sign you and hope you're their savior, which is very possible. We've seen the Jets do that with Justin Fields and guys that have had really good spurts in the NFL season, and then we see what happens. But that's also the Jets with quarterbacks. But I have faith in Jarrett Stidham to get us to the Super Bowl, and then excited to see where we go from there.
Excellent.
I hate to be the devil's advocate. I can see this game go either way, just because we were talking about before the podcast about people that aren't aware of Sean Payton's record. I think it's like 5-0, 5-1 with backup quarterbacks and in the regular season and in the playoffs. And so, if there's an offensive mind there's a short list, and Ben Johnson, a couple other guys that can overcome that and build a game plan. As great as Bo Nix has been, the biggest in his development, a big reason why the Broncos are where they are is obviously because of their defense. And Denver's still one of the hardest places to play. My only fear is it's all going to be, it sounds cliche, but it's going to be about turnovers, because you talk about the Patriots. Are they going to be able to score 30 points? Probably not, but are they going to be able to score 20-some? I can see them getting. I worry about for the Broncos the fact that he hasn't played any meaningful football in 3 years, and so now your first one's against the AFC champion, and like I said, and don't get me wrong, they're not the Texans or Broncos, but the Patriots are right there too in their defense. And Buffalo had a lot of success running the football last week, and New England's got a formidable 1-2 combo at running the football. Yeah. So I think this will be a close game, and so at first I almost picked the Patriots because of being familiar. They drafted Stidham, but I just feel like there's going to be enough, as cheesy as it sounds, rally and enough, of wanting to get it done for Knicks and in Denver, and Denver being a tough place to play. And it's like I said, it's not like New England's offense. So as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, I feel like it's going to be a close game. And don't give the Patriots a short field. Ask C.J. Stroud. But I'm actually going to go with the Broncos. I feel like they've had these miraculous wins against the Chiefs and the Broncos and stuff, and last week with the Bills. And I feel like it's going to be another close game, and they're going to get a game-winning field goal to go to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to come down to the wire. So I was almost picked the Patriots because like I said, they've like the Texans and some of the other hard teams they played, the Patriots are on that level. And not only did the Patriots, last week, win that game, but they dominated. So I said, yeah, Texans probably have a little bit better defense than them, but I don't know if how much more comfortable I'd feel with Stidham playing the Patriots, because the Patriots still have a good defense. So it's that'll be the big thing. Don't turn the ball over, and also hold the Patriots to field goals, not touchdowns. Those would be the two. It sounds easy to say, because I feel like New England's going to be able to get after the quarterback. It's going to be a close game, and so just don't. If you have to take a sack, live to fight another play. But just don't turn the ball and get over and give them a short field. But I'm going to go with Denver just for the fact of it's at home. They're the other team that's won 15 out of 16 games. Their defense is what got them there. It sucks not having Knicks, but Stidham is probably said in the upper half of backup quarterbacks, on top of having a mastermind like Sean Payton. And I think Sean Payton's also a master motivator to use that. Oh, they already counted us out. We're already done. And I think that Denver's going to use that to their advantage. And I don't know how much to make of this, but if you look at Tom, and each year's a different team, but do you know who the only team that Tom Brady had a losing record against?
Denver.
Was the Broncos. So even for whatever reason, the Broncos seem to usually have the Patriots number in Denver. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to come down either way, down to the wire. But I'm going to go with the Broncos for it. I hope I'm right. I hope the Broncos win.
Well, for me, the magic number this week is 4,991. That's the difference in elevation between Foxborough and Mile High. Foxborough is 289 feet above sea level. And if you watched that game, well, yes, obviously, you watched that game. The number of players that were sucking oxygen on the sideline come the second half, it fatigued them. Yeah. So then to go into overtime, it just, the longer you play, the longer you're on the field, the harder it is to play at that elevation. Now, you can pile that in with cold weather. Granted, Foxborough's used to cold weather. I get that. But you can pound cold weather, hard to breathe, elevation. I think that's going to give them a significant advantage. Yeah. And so, to me, you saw it there with Buffalo, because Buffalo, they struggled the second half. Then they came out there and they put up some points, for sure. But I watched the sideline of that game, and it was, how do you keep guys like Cook off the field? Yeah, he's sitting there sucking oxygen on the sideline. So I do feel like that's going to play a factor in this game. Yeah. So I think they use that to their advantage, the training. The Bills came up there and played in they practiced in some type of environment that was supposed to get them acclimated to it. But you didn't see that from the Broncos players, because they're used to that. They live in those environments and those conditions. So I think that if there's an advantage of having the number one seed in the NFL, that home field advantage, if there's a team that really, really, really has an advantage this week, it's the Broncos. So that's my magic number, 4,991.
Uh,
Do the math.
Love it.
all right, there, Greg DeGrassi.
Yeah. Rolling into the NFC Championship. You know, the Rams at the Seahawks. You know, classic rematch from this season. These teams have been battling for however long they've been in the same division. I feel like these teams have always played each other tough. This year we had two great games, and both one-score games. Rams won the first one, Seahawks won the second one. It's in Seattle, and I think, you know, I could see this game definitely going either way. The Seattle, the way they played last week, could be lights out, but last time we saw Seattle, you know, win a big game and, you know, kind of shut somebody out like that. The next game they came out and lost. So I think the Rams win this one. I think Matthew Stafford is going to be ready for it. Matt Stafford's, I've been talking about it. You know, this is MVP. This is the final signature on his career. We've had conversations off the pod of, you know, Stafford, a Hall of Fame player. And, you know, he's kind of like on the hinge right now. You know, won a Super Bowl, probably going to get his first MVP this year. But, you know, another Super Bowl would really, you know, solidify that. Yeah. For wins, like his win total just went over 500, which wasn't really on him. He played on some really shitty Lions teams there for a while. Yeah. So, but I think the Rams get it done in this one. I still, you know, last week Darnold didn't have to do much, which was a good formula for them. You know, he only attempted 17 passes. But I think the more that the Rams defense makes him throw the ball, I think the more opportunistic and more, you know, the more liable he is to throw a interception. And I'm still, you know, I hope Sam Darnold goes out there and proves me wrong and proves that he can, you know, perform in the big time moments. But even in the last time they won, he still threw 2 interceptions before he came back. You know, the punt return touchdown, and then, you know, Cooper Kupp had a couple big plays, and Jackson Smith catches a big ball there at the end to win that game against the Rams last time on Thursday night. So I'm still not a full Sam Darnold believer. I'm happy where he's at. He's a great quarterback, but I think Stafford can outplay him in this situation. They've played, you know, they're 1-1 against each other right now, so they know the tricks of the trade. They know what's going to happen, and I just think Stafford and McVay have a little bit of an edge of, you know, what can we pull out of the bag that they haven't seen out of us yet that we can, you know, move the ball a little bit more on these guys, or, you know, how can we get Devontae Adams or maybe their wide receiver 3 involved more when, you know, the focus is going to be on Puka and then Adams when they get down in the red zone. And so I could see this. I feel like this game is either a 30-34 game, you know, a high-scoring affair, or it's a 17-16 game and extremely low-scoring defensive shootout. And I'm excited. I mean, the Seahawks played great last week. The Rams, you know, they won, but it was kind of an ugly win. But, you know, a win's a win in the playoffs. So they'll take it. I think the Rams win, though. I have faith in Stafford and McVay on what seems to be Stafford's final ride here into the sunset of his career to see. You know, he's got the weapons, he's got the dudes, they got the defense playing well, playing against in Seattle. You know, it's kind of a storybook for Stafford to, you know, we went to their house and beat them, and then you get to go to the 49ers stadium, which would be the, you know, an awesome signature on his career is, you know, we beat them in a division opponent's stadium to win the Super Bowl. But same thing with the Seahawks. The Seahawks win the Super Bowl. You know, hey, we won in the 49. We won the Super Bowl here, guys. Like, it's pretty sick either way. So excited. I'm really excited for this game. But I think the Rams can get it done. I'm just full-heartedly believing Stafford to be able to get him over that hump and put him in the Super Bowl.
Well, you and I have been talking about for a couple of months. I was like you said, we talked about this being, and with like the Niners got hot, so it was like, but we've been saying all year as far as like we think. So now it's about to come to fruition, and that is like you're going to have an NFC West team in the Super Bowl. And like I said, I'm with Greg. Unfortunately, sorry T-Bone. I think whoever wins that game is going to be the Super Bowl champion. You know what scares me a little bit is, like I said, I still have that same reservation you do with Darnold as we did with Stroud, and that is just like I think Darnold will make enough plays. He'll have a couple of touchdowns, but I worry about if it comes down to clutch time. I trust Stafford in those moments a lot more than I do Darnold. So that part kind of scares me. And like I said, what a fantastic story it'd be for Matthew Stafford to ride off in the sunset when he was such a good player for so many years on bad teams, and if he got his second Super Bowl ring, I think I agree too that he's going to be with 46 touchdowns in the regular season, that he'll be the MVP. Damn near should be unanimous. But all that being said, I'm going to go with Seattle, just because I've been all over them for also the last couple of months, and I feel like Seattle is another one of those top 6, top 7 hard places to win, even in years that they're kind of down. Tied with the Chiefs for the loudest stadium in the NFL, and I'm hoping that it's not a hangover from last week, but I feel like they carry that over and carry that confidence over. It's another week of Darnold hopefully being healthier. It does hurt losing Charbonnet, and yes, they split, and the Rams definitely had their chances to win that last game, but Seattle's got stupid hot and figured some things out at the end of that game. On top of the first game, the Rams were completely dominant. And then with all the turnovers, like I wouldn't even say the Rams were dominant, but Darnold turned it over 4 times, and every time they got down to the red zone, and then I think they lost by They lost by like 2,
Yeah.
and the Seahawks ran out of time, but they almost came back on them. So I feel like Seattle's got the more balanced team. Listen, I'm not going to be shocked either way because Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua, and like I said, if it comes down to a clutch situation, I worry about Darnold trying to compete with Stafford and like having that game like back-breaking interception or fumble.
Breaking news here. Mike McDaniel is expected to be the Chargers offensive coordinator next year. So Herbert's going to get a legitimate offensive coordinator there. Interesting to see. The deal is not official, but he basically said barring a change of heart, he will be getting that offensive coordinator job. So Herbert gets a crazy offensive coordinator. That'll be exciting for him.
Yeah. But
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're
It's just
okay.
Breaking news.
No, that's big news.
Yeah.
But I feel like the weapons that Seattle has and the balance that they have, they're going to get after Stafford, and I feel like they'll have a game plan. Puka will still get his catches, but I feel like Seattle's defense will do enough with stopping the other guys, and Chicago kind of laid out a blueprint. And I said I could see this. You could make an argument either way. On the one hand, are the Rams a team of destiny, and like we talked about, both games between the Panthers and the Bears, they very easily could have lost that game. They were trailing late in both of those games. Or this game, I guess the Bears tied them. But on the one hand, I'm like, well, the Rams are lucky to even win either one of their first 2 games. But on the flip side of that is like they're also battle tested. You know what I mean? Like in those moments already. So 2 lucky wins. I wouldn't say lucky, but close wins. Listen, I'm not going to be shocked, but I'm on the Seattle bandwagon. I'm not going to jump off now, and I just feel like since it's in Seattle, I hope Darnold doesn't turn the ball over, and like the balance of the Seahawks get the win.
Yeah. I feel like that game, I'm most excited for that game. I mean, obviously, I'm excited for my Broncos to play, but obviously there's a lot more stress involved in that game for me. The other game, I'm just excited to watch.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, whatever team makes the Super Bowl has arguments to be deserving in that situation.
Yeah.
Either way. LSV is out of the room taking care of something. So we are going to wrap this up here. Appreciate everybody listening. Hope everybody has a great championship weekend. Enjoy. We have 3 NFL games left. So cherish every one of them. Excited to see how these games shake out. Everybody has a great week. Congrats to Indiana for winning the national championship. That's huge for, obviously, the state of Indiana and just college football as a whole. Appreciate everybody listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.